Is Trump a dictator? Asked the London Guardian on September 1st, answering the question, you'll be amazed to hear, in the affirmative. My old friend Lionel Barber, former editor of the Financial Times, recently called President Trump, quote, a dictator in waiting.
When the media cries dictator at every turn, it loses all meaning. If everything is fascism, then nothing is. The left has weaponized this language not to inform, but to terrify. But history shows us something very different, and far more revealing about how America really works.
Donald Trump is the Buzz Windrip of the liberal nightmare. Andrew Sullivan likens him to, I'm going to quote here, a wild boar, psychologically incapable of understanding anything but dominance and revenge, with no knowledge of history, crashing obliviously and malevolently through the ruined landscape of our constitutional democracy, because he cannot tolerate any system where he does not have total control. So Trump didn't go full Windrip in his first term. Sullivan concedes that. But in his second term, he argues, the Buzz Windrip has been unleashed.
So is Trump really some new Buzz Windrip, the caricature of liberal nightmares? Or is he simply the latest president in a long line of leaders inheriting powers that Congress itself surrendered decades ago? That's the part the media won't tell you, because the truth is, the imperial presidency didn't begin in 2016. It started long before.
The imperial presidency, the expanding executive branch, long predates Donald Trump. Franklin Roosevelt's critics saw the New Deal as a power grab by the executive branch. Peter Thiel reminded us of that last year in his lectures on the Antichrist. Richard Nixon's Democratic critics, notably Arthur Schlesinger Jr., made very similar arguments in 1973. As my friend Jack Goldsmith of Harvard and the Hoover Institution has argued, there has been a sustained, I'll use his phrase, escalation of power grabs by the presidency throughout this century, aided by, quote, substantial delegations of power from Congress and an approving Supreme Court. George W. Bush greatly enlarged the power of the US national security state after the 9/11 attacks 24 years ago this month. Barack Obama used executive orders for, quote, large-scale and sometimes legally dubious policy initiatives, asserted broad non-enforcement discretion in cases involving immigration, marijuana, and Obamacare, and used, quote, legally dubious threats to yank federal funds from universities to force changes to their rules on sexual assault and harassment.
And this is where the hysteria completely unravels. If Trump were truly dismantling democracy, the courts would be powerless, the opposition silenced, the media gagged. But none of that happened. In fact, the very lawsuits and challenges against him prove the system is working. That's not dictatorship. That's democracy. Messy, loud, and alive.
In any case, the law courts are currently grappling with 400 cases involving the Trump administration. 404, to be precise, according to the website Just Security. Of the 404, none has been closed in favor of the plaintiff, 28 have been blocked, 82 temporarily blocked, 19 blocked pending appeal, 20 temporarily blocked in part, 48 have had a temporary block denied in part or wholly, 33 are pending appeal, 162 are awaiting a court ruling, 23 have been closed, 2 have been transformed, and just 7 have been closed or dismissed in favor of the government. This is Trump's 5th year in government. I can assure you that was not how German law courts worked in 1938, the 5th year of Hitler's regime.
Here's the real check. History shows dictatorships thrive when no institution stands in their way. But in America, even the Supreme Court remains a counterweight. That's why, despite the constant headlines, the idea that one man can bulldoze the Constitution overnight simply doesn't hold up.
So it's possible the Supreme Court may side with Trump. The Supremes may rule against Trump in the case of Lisa Cook. I think it's unlikely the majority of justices will accept the unproven allegations of mortgage fraud as sufficient cause for Trump to fire her from the Fed. And I think they may rule that the administration was acting illegally when it sank a boat the other day, allegedly carrying drug-smuggling members of the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua, or when it deported gang members on the basis of the Alien Enemies Act. But the justices may back Trump on his right to send the National Guard to Los Angeles, Chicago, and Washington, D.C., because there are precedents for sending in the military to protect government officials carrying out their duties, in this case, agents of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. As Harvard's Noah Feldman has pointed out, sooner or later, the Supreme Court will have to make up its mind on these difficult cases. Only if it calls every one of them in the administration's favor will we need to start worrying that the separation of powers has stopped working. And I'll be amazed if it does that.
So the next time you hear Trump is a dictator, remember, dictators don't face hundreds of lawsuits, lose in courts, or have their policies overturned. That only happens in a republic where checks and balances still function. The real danger isn't one man. It's the decades of power Congress has surrendered and the media's obsession with fear. If we want to preserve liberty, we have to see through the hysteria and focus on the facts. If you value honest analysis and real conversations, make sure to subscribe. Hit the like button and share your thoughts in the comments. What did we miss and what should we tackle next? Your voice makes this community stronger. Let's keep pushing for the truth together.